Welcome to Battleground Chats, where I speak to interesting risk and resilience professionals about their journey in risk and what they see that's up and coming in the risk space. And today I am joined by Simon Levy. Thanks for joining us, Simon. We've been friends for many years, over a large part of your career. I've been really looking forward to speaking to you. So start at the beginning. How did you get into risk? And how did you end up as CEO of the RMIA?
It's a great question, Craig, and thank you very much. And yeah, look, you're right. We have been friends for a long time, and I've enjoyed and valued each one of our conversations. So this is hopefully just the next step in what we've done over the years. So look, in terms of my career, it's always a really interesting question, and I've been doing a lot of reflecting recently. And your question around risk resilience, to me, they're not just theories. They've actually been part of every step of my career. I actually have a science degree, and my career's developed from working in manufacturing, quality control, product development. Over time, that then evolved from regulatory compliance, process control, and auditing. It spanned multiple industries, including food production, FMCG, aviation, international experience, both in Australia, the UK, and then the States. Was it in the science space or other spaces? How did you use your science degree? It was then around process control, auditing, and applying that what if, so what, challenging, questioning approach to everything that I've done. But look, just circling back as well. So I then came back from the UK, where I spent 10 years over there working in aviation, and started working in shopping centres and retail, moved into aged care, healthcare, and then insurance, and then auditing. As I said, so that science degree has been applied across each one of those industries. Given the way and my natural thought process, it has been around, well, how can we find improvements? What could go wrong? What do we need to do? Talking to lots of people. So as I said earlier, this isn't just a theory to me, and there's been a few lessons that I've sort of developed along the way that is absolutely honed and helped my approach to what we do at the RMIA, but then also where the industry and the risk profession is going. It's actually about decision making. It's more than just identifying threats, but it's enabling organisations to make better and more informed choices. Resilience is an organisational muscle, and it's built through culture, capability, leadership. It's more than just those policies and procedures that I started writing at the start of my career. But balance is critical. And I often say this to my kids as well. So the best risk professionals, they blend that technical expertise with the ability to influence and drive action. Just having that foresight to know what's coming up and then bringing that back to the now, so they can then start to influence and drive some of those changes.
And I think that's really important, risk, resilience. But even if you're an auditor, for example, bringing someone on a journey through the audit, or whether you're any sort of manager, understanding and getting in touch with what makes the company and the person tick can be very important for getting that buy-in and adding value back. So that's a really good insight.
And then it's funny, so when I do look back at my career, it is that diverse experience that's given me the ability to understand the challenges faced by organisations. And it was really part of that and my need to grow and expand my network that in 2015, I joined the RMIA. And it was purely selfish on my part.
But it wasn't as their CEO, right? You were just part of the chapter, I think.
Not even when I joined. I joined as a member. I was a risk professional wanting to support my career, support my professional development journey, and to grow my network. And that's exactly what I did when I joined the RMIA. But fast forward to now as CEO of the RMIA, in many ways you could say that all of my experience to date across the breadth of industries, wearing all those multiple hats within the risk profession, has led up to now my role being the CEO of the RMIA, all of that experience helped reinforce those strong risk and resilience practices. Again, they don't just protect businesses, but they create that competitive advantage and unlock the opportunity. And that's a lot of what I talk about, given the chance to stand on my soapbox and talk about risk management, resilience, and the opportunities to the risk profession. But as I said, I've loved every step of my career journey, and it hasn't taken that linear path that many people would expect. It has sort of gone twists and turns. As I said, it took me overseas for a while. I came back.
You've had setbacks along the way, and you've bounced back. You've been resilient along the way as well.
Absolutely. And look, I love this industry. I love the people that make it up, and it's just fun. It's challenging. But there is so much reward for seeing an organisation either avoid risk, avoid disaster, but then ultimately to succeed and meet the objectives either of the stakeholders, the shareholders, the board, or even the CEO. It's an exciting profession to be part of, but one that's very much changing.
And so what, before we dive into what's coming and what you see as the next stage in risk, what's one or two things you've learnt or you've seen in the industry as the RMIA CEO, right? You meet everyone in companies, directors, CROs, risk professionals, the broad range of roles. What's one or two things you've learnt as the CEO about not only risk, but about the profession or about the industry that you can share with us?
So it's a cliche, but the speed and scale of disruption these days, it's unbelievable. Whether it's the cyber threats, regulatory change, economic volatility, everything that we've just seen in the last couple of days in terms of the geopolitical shifts, the risk landscape, it's moving faster than ever. That's putting pressure on boards. That's putting pressure on those executive leadership teams. But it's creating an even bigger challenge for the risk professionals. Because the makeup of risk professionals is we'll take on that work. We'll try and do more and more. And the risk is by taking that on, by trying to provide the answers and that foresight that's required to help organisations navigate, we're at risk of actually then not being able to deliver on the BAU and everything else as well. So it's becoming what I see as a very real challenge for risk and resilience professionals and organisations. And with that then in mind, the next big shift that I've seen has been how risk is really integrated with business strategy. And those leading organisations, those organisations that do, in inverted commas, risk very well, risk isn't treated, or risk and resilience, isn't treated as a standalone discipline anymore. It's embedded into the decision-making, those transformation programs and innovation. So those two things, which interestingly, when they come together, are exciting on one hand, but then placing more and more pressure on the individual risk professionals that make up not only the RMIA, but the business landscape of Australia.
And it's not just regulatory change, right? Because we've got in financial services CPS 230, which is kind of getting its little tentacles into other industries as well. So you're not talking about reg change. You're talking about external threats as well that are heightening people's awareness of the risks.
No doubt. But saying that though, even if you're not within a financially regulated entity, I'd be looking at the requirements of CPS 230 and seeing what you can do and bring in to your own organisation. At very least, just use it as a benchmarking opportunity and go back to your CEO, go back to your CRO, go back to your board and say, here's what's happening in the big banks, let's call it, the big insurers and the super companies. Here's how we actually perform in that area, and then present the plan to improve.
That's a great idea. We do talk to some of our clients about that, especially because part of CPS 230 is third parties and fourth parties, of which many, many companies fall into that, right? So they're going to have requirements, but start looking at it now because there are some really interesting learnings you can get from that. So that's really good advice.
Just to wrap that up, I'd look at it through three questions: the what, the so what, and then the now what.
Say that again and explain each one.
So it's the what. What's happening? Well, in this instance, it's CPS 230 and what that then means for organisations. So the so what is, well, what does it mean now for our organisation? Whether we have a requirement to comply with it or not.
Yep.
And then the now what is, what do we do? It's the action plan.
That's a really neat way to put it. Really neat way.
It's a really simple way. What, so what, now what? And I've got it up on my whiteboard. I try and refer to it all the time. And it's just a simple way of being able to frame a problem, the activity, the requirements, and then what do we need to do moving forward to meet those requirements.
Excellent. All right. So change of tack, which I like to always ask people who join us on Battleground chats. What's the biggest thing that's going to change in risk and resilience in the coming years? That could be a threat. It could be an opportunity. It could be something that's out there. It may be something that you know of that not everyone knows about. What's the biggest change coming, do you think?
Question, Craig. I don't know if I'm prepared for this one, so let me see what I can do. Look, there is a paradigm shift taking place. And as I think I touched on before, risk and resilience, it's no longer back office functions. They're critical enablers for strategic success. So that ability then to anticipate, adapt and respond will become a defining factor for organisational performance.
Yep.
So what does that actually then mean from a trend perspective? Well, I think it's both, as you said, it's both threat and opportunity.
Yep, 100%.
And for the risk professional, those risk leaders and those aspiring risk leaders, they will become those strategic advisors of the future. The function is shifting from that technical oversight to that boardroom level strategic discipline that will impact business growth. That's the opportunity, being able to do it.
Yep.
The threat is that the risk professionals don't step up and meet the needs of businesses.
Yeah, that's a fascinating one, isn't it? And that is where RMIA comes in, plug. But also, that's where continuous learning comes in as well, and also reaching out and looking outward. What we see is the professionals that look outward and seek advice, seek help, use the tools available to them are those that seem to succeed and grow more. So that is great advice.
Just to support that as well, I think as you touched on, I'm incredibly fortunate in my role in that I do get to talk to a lot of directors and CROs and even audit risk committee members as well. And 2024 seemed to be the year that a lot of those high-level influential CROs and risk leaders wanted to look more externally. There were lots of people reaching out to become involved in our events, to speak at our conferences. But
interesting.
Overall, they're all saying we've had a few years where we've had to look internally. And I think that was on the back of COVID. Exactly. Yep. And then it was almost that settling down of post-COVID. And it just seemed that 2024, there was a large cohort of those risk leaders or those not only risk leaders, but those people that exhibit leadership within risk management. I think that there's two sides to the same coin there. They started to wake up and started to look externally. And as I said, we're very fortunate that a lot of them reached out to the RMIA to want to become involved. How can we get our team on that journey? But then once our team are on the journey, how can we become involved with this RMIA, either as mentors along the way, speakers at events, conferences, as I touched on. So look, it's a very exciting time, and having the profession involved as well is critical to the RMIA success, because that is why we exist, for the members, for the profession of risk management.
Yep, and that is very true. And that is why we have signed a strategic partnership with you for 3 years, right? And I've been asked a lot, actually, so why have you signed up with the RMIA? Within a couple of weeks, I've maybe got asked 10, 20 times. But as part of it is because of this outward looking, outward thinking approach, right? We see lots of business continuity, resilience, crisis folk and risk folk. You guys see a lot of them. Your members do as well. And I think it is so important to share. It is so important to learn from each other because we can only look after ourselves together, right? There's no one else there. So we have to work together. I don't like this idea of saying, we can't share because we do things differently to everyone else. That is maybe why you should share and teach and get out there.
Absolutely. And as rewarding as being a risk and resilience professional is, it's also really hard.
Yeah.
Because as somebody said to me last week, risk professionals have to have thick skin because all they do is deliver bad news. And it was that, but that was a really interesting statement for me because, again, it only looked at the risk professional as the threat side of things as opposed to the opportunity. But that's what a lot of organisations are asking for at the moment. That's really hard. And there's nothing wrong with reaching out to other risk professionals and just being open and honest and go, wow, I've got a real challenge at the moment. How are you doing X, Y, or Z?
Exactly.
Or, hey, I saw you at the RMIA conference last year. I don't want to wait until the next one. Can I just reach out and we can have a coffee locally or I'm going to be in Sydney.
100%.
Let's catch up. And to your point, just share. Sometimes there's that whole concept of just knowing that other people are going through the same challenges as you, just to make it easier. There's nothing wrong with just benchmarking yourself or your organisation. You don't always have to strive for the perfection. Sometimes just knowing where you are and what the path ahead looks like.
And by talking to each other is the way to
Absolutely.
do that.
Without doubt.
Love it. That is a great end. Thank you so much, Simon, for your time. And we will see you at the RMA conference in May.
Absolutely. Brilliant. Thank you, Craig. Thank you, everybody.